Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Mike Pelaia.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Steel Nation Radio. I'm Mike Pelaia of SteelNationAssociation.com, where we cover the Steelers 24/7 while bringing you, the Steeler fans, together in an effort to raise money for Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. Come visit the website, read the articles, listen to the podcasts, join our club, and help us raise money for the kids at the same time. And as you know, or I hope you do by now, you can find my work on SteelCityUnderground.com, where we have many great columnists covering the Steelers all the time with many great opinions, thoughts, podcasts, articles, and so much more. So please go over there and check us out. And lastly, but not least, you can find me on the new PittsburghCourier.com and in the paper at New Pittsburgh Courier, where you can pick it up at any local stores. So please check out all the articles in all of those places and root for those Steelers at the same time. Well, we sit here after another Steelers loss, dropping them to 1-4 on the season, and it's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's a game they had in hand. At first, it looked like the Ravens were going to run away with the thing. The Steelers power back and take the lead, and then obviously give it up late to go into overtime and then lose it in overtime after the JuJu Smith-Schuster fumble. And I think I'm going to start with that, actually. So I'm really, really tired of reading all of the JuJu hate all over the internet. This game is not on JuJu Smith-Schuster, period. It's just not. I understand that he may not be putting up the numbers that everybody wanted him to put up. He's not matching last year. There's a couple of factors there, more than a couple. First and foremost, I think you all should be aware that Ben Roethlisberger is not playing. Therefore, his number one Hall of Fame quarterback is not delivering him the football. That goes against JuJu right there. Any receiver would suffer if they didn't have Roethlisberger throwing to them and they were dropping to a second-year, essentially rookie quarterback in Mason Rudolph, and now down to a third stringer who was on the streets, until a few weeks ago. That had him in camp, of course, but the story is well there with Hodges. So you can't blame JuJu for the numbers and then turn it around because he fumbles and say it's his fault that they lost this Ravens game. Stop the JuJu hate. He also made a heck of a play to score a touchdown earlier in that game. So lay off his back. The guy's fumbled twice in his entire career. Just happens to be the Saints game and now this one. Get over it. It's not on JuJu. All right? That's the first thing. Tired of it. Stop. Secondly, there's a lot of ref hate out there, and that's justified. They suck. They absolutely made some horrific calls in that football game. They handed the Ravens some points. There is no doubt about it. They impacted the game. They did. But we also, as a fan base, need to stop making excuses for this team and blaming the refs, because that's been happening a lot over the last few years, and quite frankly, it's ridiculous. The refs suck. They suck for everybody. Yes, the Steelers have been bitten by the refs. I will not argue that. But stop this ref blaming BS. It's loser talk. If you have to blame the refs because you can't win the game, then you're a loser team. That's what's happening right now. This team is losing football games. The refs are contributing to that. Absolutely. But it sounds whiny and lame to sit here and blame these refs all the time. They suck. Face it. They suck. We know they suck. Let it go. Stop it. It's an excuse and it's lame and I'm tired of it. Just stop. Now, that being said, where we should put a lot of the blame, and I wrote about this earlier this week, is on Fichtner, quite frankly. The play calling that he has put out there this season is atrocious. Now, I know 100% it would have been different if Roethlisberger was playing. I get it. But at some point, he needed to trust Mason Rudolph. And while that started to formulate a little bit this past week against the Ravens, it was still too conservative. And specifically the Wildcat. There is a reason that gimmicky play is out of the league. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. And I said that after they beat the Bengals. Yes, I'm grateful they beat the Bengals. And yes, that did help them beat the Bengals. But no, it's not something that should be used very often, if at all. And Mike Tomlin acknowledged that after the Bengals win. And again, after this Ravens loss. Because he is right. It is a gimmick. It's garbage offense. It doesn't work. And you don't call that inside of your own red zone and have Jalen Samuels throw a pass that gets picked and turns into points for the Ravens. You don't do that. You don't do that when you're inside the opponent's 10-yard line with 2nd and 1 to set up 1st and goal and lose 5 yards and then ultimately get a 4th and 23 and have to kick a field goal instead of going in for a touchdown. That is the reason the Steelers lost the football game. That is why. It's not the refs, though they impacted it. It's not JuJu Smith-Schuster, though that was the last play on offense. It's not even that Mason Rudolph got knocked out. It's Randy Fichtner's calls that cost them the football game, and it's costing them their season. It's ridiculous that this continues. He needs to open up the playbook, and maybe it's not Ben Roethlisberger, but throw the ball down the field. Run the football more than 15 or 18 times in a game. You've got a Pro Bowl running back with James Conner, whose season thus far through 5 weeks is garbage. And it's not Conner's fault. He's not gaining the opportunities, thank you to Fichtner. And outside of the opening game against the Patriots, there's no reason for that. There is no reason that Conner is not getting the carries. He needs 20 carries minimum per game, especially when your backup and now your backup's backup, who was on the street heading into the opener of the season, are playing. They need to be helped out by the running game, period. And that's just something that has to happen. And the offensive line needs to play a little bit better, but listen, Fichtner needs to call the plays that are appropriate for what he has on the field. And dink and dunk, little touch passes, and not running the football to control the clock to help your young quarterbacks makes no sense to me. I'm very interested to see how this week goes with Duck Hodges presumably starting and playing the game at quarterback this week. I think, one, he might actually provide a spark. I think he played pretty well against the Ravens. He was 7 of 9. He looked pretty confident. I like the fact that he can scramble, which I actually would implement into the game plan. I recognize that Paxton Lynch is essentially the backup, so that is problematic if Hodges were to go down. But at this point, who the hell cares? They're 1-4. Open it up. See what happens. The Chargers defense doesn't really scare me. I think Hodges can and will throw the ball downfield if he's allowed to. And I think he'll do it pretty well. He has got a swagger to him, and I like it. He is the reason that Dobbs was traded. I still wouldn't have traded Dobbs. I said that immediately after the trade, and everybody that thought, oh, that makes no sense, we're glad we got that 5th-round pick. Are you still glad right now? Yes, Duck Hodges is decent enough, I suppose. But even if you would rather have Hodges over Dobbs, you'd rather have Dobbs over Paxton Lynch as the backup. Don't tell me you wouldn't. It was not a smart trade. But either way, it's neither here nor there at this point. Hodges is our guy. I would run the ball this week with James Conner 25 times. Let him get into that rhythm. Let him get started. I would call some quarterback draws with Hodges. I would let him run. He can do that. And I would let him throw the ball down the field. Specifically to JuJu Smith-Schuster. But call some plays to Vance McDonald, please. He is a play-making tight end, and we need to design some of these offensive plays to go to him as the first read. It's not happening. It's not happening, but it should. And I hope it does. And I think if they do that offensively, they can put up some points this week against the Chargers defense that, quite frankly, just isn't that great, in my opinion, at least. And I think that they can have a chance. Defensively, I mean, they've been pretty good lately, right? I mean, since Minkah Fitzpatrick has been here, they've been a turnover machine. They have been getting after the quarterback the last couple of weeks, putting up some serious quarterback pressure numbers, some serious sacks. I mean, the turnovers, I'll say it again, are impressive. I mean, this is not a team that's done that in recent seasons, so it's nice to see that. But this defense is probably and unfortunately going to have to score on one of those turnovers just to help out the offense, period. I keep saying period, but I want to emphasize some of these points. I mean, they are just going to have to help out, and they are helping out. I mean, they're doing more than their share, but I think that they're going to have to provide some points. I don't think we can rely on the special teams to do that the way they've been playing. And I like Ryan Switzer, I really do, but they just have not been playing well, and Tomlin made that point in his presser after the Ravens game. So I think the defense probably in this game was going to have to. They're going to have to get after Phillip Rivers, who's having a solid season. He's fifth in the league in yards right now at the quarterback position with over 1,400. But he's not getting a lot of touchdowns. Touchdowns and interceptions 7-4. But it's Phillip Rivers. And these Charger games always seem to be tough for the Steelers. And it's one that I expect also to be tough this week on Sunday night, especially because the Chargers lost to the previously winless Broncos this past week. And I think that they are a good team. I think they're a contending team in terms of getting into the playoffs. And I don't think this is a team that wants to lose 2 in a row, especially at home. And that is what scares me more than anything. I think if they had won this past week, I would probably pick the Steelers to win, even with Hodges. The fact that they lost, I'm leaning towards picking the Chargers here this week, and I just think the Steelers don't have it completely together yet. At 1-4, the Steelers are not out of it. They are in a weak division. The Ravens are a couple games ahead. The Browns, of course, are only 1 game ahead. We still have 2 left with them. Steelers can do it. They do not want to be 1-5 and heading into their bye week. Even if they are, they could still be in this thing, but they would prove to be a pretty weak football team at that point. So it does come, starting this week. They're going to have to get after Rivers. They're going to have to contain Melvin Gordon, who's only played the 1 game and really only had a few yards. I think he had 12 carries for about 30 yards or so. I think he'll slowly but surely begin to ramp up for the season. I think it could start this week. I definitely expect him to have more than 12 carries. He is dangerous. There is no doubt about that. But the most dangerous guy to me on that offense right now, at least, is Keenan Allen. If he gets out in the open, he's a guy that can make plays. He's averaging over 12 yards a catch. He's got 3 touchdowns so far this year, and he's certainly Phillip Rivers' number 1 target. The good news, though, is that the defense will not have to worry about the tight ends. Collectively, the tight ends have eight catches between them all. So that is not something that we need to necessarily worry about. And that's usually a weak point for the Steelers, so I'm happy to see that. Let me just recalculate that there. 12. There's 4 tight ends on the roster. Right now, 12 catches. That is still nothing that I'm too concerned about, considering they've played 5 games. They're getting slightly over 2 catches a game out of their tight ends. So Steelers need to pressure Rivers. He is a statue, and the way this defense has been getting back there in the backfield, that could prove well for the Steelers. Again, I think it could be a close game. I think the way that, what's his name? Doggone, I can't think of the kicker's name right now. Why am I blanking on Boswell? Whoa, why did that take me so long to get out Boswell's name? If Boswell can continue his hot streak, knock on wood, hasn't missed anything this year, it may come down to his leg. I'm trusting him right now, which is a good thing. I am trusting him. I think he can make the necessary kicks under pressure. He hasn't really had any pressure kicks yet this year, but I think his confidence is back. I think he's proven to be the kicker that we saw 2 years ago and not the kicker we saw last year, which is great. maybe one of the only bright spots in terms of putting up points this year. But in the end, I think, again, the Steelers are facing some difficult circumstances on the road, Sunday night, third string quarterback, with a team that's pretty good, facing coming off a loss, needing a win in a division that has Kansas City and the Raiders in front of them. So I don't think the Steelers win. Again, I think it's close. I just don't think they get it done. I think they lose this game 27-24. It's another nail biter, if you will. But they do leave the stadium coming back from Los Angeles 1-5 and heading into a bye week before they play Miami, where they will win. But they unfortunately won't get it done this week. But Hodges will have a good game. Hodges will put up some decent numbers. I think they'll let him throw downfield because they've got nothing to lose. I think JuJu will break out. I think Connor's going to have a good game. I just think they aren't going to have enough in the end. And it's going to come down to Rivers putting some sort of last fourth quarter drive together to get them that win. And that's what's unfortunately going to happen. Will the refs make some bad calls? Probably. But it's not something that the Steelers are going to be able to blame. It's going to be them not getting it done when they need to in the crunch. And it pains me to say it, but I just think they're going to be 1-5. And that's just the season that we're facing at this point. One quick side note for anybody that didn't know, and just interestingly enough, there is another Watt, Derek Watt, for those of you that don't know. He's fullback for the Chargers. And so that might be a little interesting thing to watch if he's out there and TJ goes out there and smashes him or something like that. That could be fun to watch. But other than that, I think it'll be a good game, just not going to be on the positive side for us. And, we'll get it rolling in a couple of weeks. Until then, I'm Mike Pelaia of Steel Nation Radio, SteelNationAssociation.com, Steel City Underground, and New Pittsburgh Courier. And we will talk again next week, hopefully after a Steelers victory.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.